afternoon. I look forward to getting to know all of you in the room. But first, I'd like to start out with a little bit of a blood flow exercise. So instead of Simon Says, we're going to do Audrey Says. I would like everyone who has ever felt any form of stress to please stand up. Audrey says if you feel stressed, stand up. Awesome. And Audrey says if you have ever felt anxiety, please sit down. And Audrey says if you've ever felt any forms of depression, please stand up. And Audrey says if you've ever felt any type of addiction disorders in your life, whether it be addiction to a cell phone or a computer or a drug or an alcohol or even other things like sex, please sit down. Sex is a real addiction. It's a really big one, actually, and especially pornography. And Audrey also says if you have ever had a concussion, please stand up. And a concussion in the legal aspect, being with this lovely law group, means you've ever hit your head. Have you ever hit your head? That is the definition of a concussion. Yep. And wonderful. So look at the room. Pretty much everyone has stood up and sat down with everything that I have just went over. And if everybody would like to take their seats, there is an amazing little brochure that's on your table. Please grab one. And if there's not enough, there's also something called a script pad that looks like this if you want to grab one of those. When you grab the brochure, you can open up to the middle of the trifold, and there is a whole bunch of things that are listed that I believe that we're all suffering with. Or we know someone and love someone who's suffering with one of these things. And the reason I'm so excited and so grateful and so thankful for Jean reaching out to myself and inviting me to speak here today is because we help treat these issues. So let me tell you a little bit about what we do with qEEG brain mapping. What we're doing is the lovely lady in the picture is wearing our cap. This cap is got no gels, it's non-invasive, and it's a little tiny EEG reader, which is the same thing as a heart rate monitor, or you ladies or gentlemen who have children, if you've ever been in labor, you know that they put a monitor on your belly. It's actually monitoring the electrical activity of your contractions. And what we're doing with a brain map is we're monitoring the electricity in the brain. And you may or may not know that there's alpha, theta, gamma, beta, high beta, and delta. And those are all of the different frequencies that we're monitoring with this 19-point cap. And from that, we have multiple different types of reports. And two of our most used reports are going to be the basic diagnostic aid that can actually show you what's really going on. So a lot of people come in and they're like, oh, my doctor diagnosed me with this and I've been on that medication because of what I verbally communicated I felt was wrong with me. Well, let me tell you on a little side note, a little short story. I have two sons who are now 13 and 11. And my 11-year-old was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. That's a huge, huge diagnosis. And come to find out, when we did this brain map, my son doesn't have autism. He does not. He has severe PTSD, and he has insomnia, and he is stressed out to the max because his older brother, who actually does have autism spectrum disorder, is attacking him. And being a parent, trying to stop your children who are two boys, who that's what boys do, is beat each other up, has actually caused my son severe PTSD. And he was going through ABA therapy for 6 years, hand over hand, basically being tortured because we were told by a doctor he had autism when he didn't. So that's why I have so much passion for this. And it has actually helped both of my children reverse so many symptoms, but my older son, 80% of his autism symptomologies have been reversed in 3 years by completing 20 neurofeedback therapy sessions each year. Now, on the other type of brain map that we get for that second type of report, that is actually done through insurance. And for that report, through liens. So for this lovely law group that's here, I'm definitely talking to you. Those concussions that I just asked, if you've ever hit your head, let me tell you another thing. You don't just have to hit your head, and I promise all the people who didn't stand up, if you were born through a vaginal canal, or if forceps, a vacuum, and even very many cases in C-section, you received a concussion the day you were born. So you're already, none of us are functioning at our optimal. Secondly, when you were an infant, you don't remember how many people dropped you while they were changing your diaper. All of us are suffering with many, many concussions. And these beautiful glass windows, I guarantee you, if we put our toddlers in here and they want to jump in that pool, there would at least be 50% of them that hit their head on that glass. And we've all probably walked into something when we were very young and created that concussion. Now, again, in legal terminology, a concussion is just that you bumped your head, but what is the severity of that concussion is truly what makes a case. And what we do with a 40-page report and the top doctor in the entire nation who has a 42-page resume of research studies line by line by line, he literally takes the qEEG that we created through the brain mapping and puts together this report to show you exactly where the injury occurred so you can corroborate what your client has said has happened to them, and it also shows you the severity. Now I'm going to tell you another little short story. When I was 12 years old, I lived in Tucson, Arizona. Who's familiar with Tucson? Raise your hand. Does anybody from the Tucson area who knows it knows where Oracle and Prince Road is? If you think back many, many, many years ago, there used to be an EG's on that corner. I believe now it's a Filiberto's. I was walking across the street when it had a little green flashing man saying I could, and a car ran a red light and hit me. I don't know how fast the car was going, but my girlfriend behind me was like, it was at least going 50 miles an hour. I was in the crosswalk crossing legally. I ended up standing up at the back of the drive-through. I flew in the air and I rolled and bumped my head several times. My body stood up, and I didn't want to get in trouble with my parents, so I didn't tell anybody that that accident happened. I actually lied and said I was practicing my cheerleading moves and twisted my ankle. I went for 30 years with an untreated concussion, almost 30 years. When I started with Neuron-Connect, I said, would you please run this report? The concussions that I actually had as a child still came up with moderate to severe showing. And so what I've personally done is use neurofeedback therapy, which I'll now explain to you what that is. We do the same exact thing. We put this cap on and we monitor your brain waves at 1/100th of a second. We're never putting anything into you. The only thing that we're doing is removing feedback. And that's where the name came from. Neuro meaning the brain cells are called neurons, and feedback meaning light and sound. Our brains are amazing fat machines, believe it or not, and this gelatinous ball that's in our head, our neurons don't actually, or brain cells don't actually touch. They get very close to each other and they send electrical signals. And when we go through things like concussion, stress, anxiety, believe it or not, even watching a movie where there's murder, just like your body doesn't know when you close your eyes and think of a traumatic incident that happened to you when you were 3, 5, 10, your body actually believes that you're going through it. When you're watching these violent movies, your body and your brain actually thinks you're going through it, that you're the one being shot at. And so what your brain does to keep you safe is it creates a diversion. And through that diversion is where we start seeing all of these issues that are on this script pad or inside this brochure coming up. And we're not doing anything to balance that back into its proper frequency so that we can all be functioning optimally. And that's what we do at Neuron-Connect. After we do your brain map, we give you your report, we explain the report line by line to you as the patient. And then from there, we do individualized neurofeedback therapy training based on your individualized brainwaves. And again, what is even more amazing to me is that a lot of people who offer this don't offer this through insurance. And what we have spent a lot of money on is making this be able to go through insurance. So right now, our company takes like Aetna, Blue Cross, Humana, all these different insurances, Optum, et cetera. What I'm super excited about is we're actually doing some test runs with Access. So that means to me, no excuses with my passion to help the humans, because when your brain is actually functioning properly, everything gets better. And what I can say is that because of the injuries that I sustained as a child and the traumas that I lived through, I used drugs and alcohol and electronic devices to prevent me from feeling like I was being triggered, which is what a lot of people are doing. They're trying to mask the problems that they can't figure out on themselves and in themselves. And their doctors aren't helping by throwing a medication at them. And so, again, we're looking at truly the underlying issues and helping to fix them. And for any of the centers that are out there who have medical directors, we understand that referrals are great. But I also understand as a mother who's now a single mom, I have bills to pay and I have 2 teenagers to feed, and you big guys in here know how much you eat. And it ain't cheap. And so what we did is we spent, again, a ton of money with attorneys to put together something called a service management agreement. And what that does for you all is allow your patients to be referred by their own medical doctor within your facility. We come, we bring the technician, we bring the cap, we write the notes. You've hired us to do service for you. We give you those notes, you send them into your own insurance companies, which means that it's not limited by what we currently take with our medical director. It's what you take through your medical director. And then from there, you pay us a fee for running your services for you. If you like to have a higher percentage, you can put more into the pot. We can discuss that. But really what we're looking to do is help the entire community of the Phoenix Valley to become more optimally functioning so that we all have a better, healthy, wealthy lifestyle in the area that we're all here to support, this amazing community. And so I would love to sit down, learn about your individual businesses, your individual selves, your individual families. My passion is truly to help heal people holistically. And this is one of my outlets that I do it. And because I've seen people who have gone through so much trauma over the last 3 years calling me, crying, and watching my own sons who were being kicked out of public school because they couldn't communicate, changed. My sons are now both in all honors classes, attending public school, and able to communicate to me what's wrong with them versus biting me to bleeding, which is what was happening with my older son for many years. And to see patients that have been in car accidents, who can't see, who can't work, who can't even walk because of the vertigo and all of the things that happen after a head injury, able to like go back to work and call me and be like, thank you so much for explaining this to me in a way that I could understand it and figure out that you're not electrocuting me, because when people see that cap, they think that we're doing something to them, but really their brain is doing all the work. It is the gym for your brain and you're controlling it. And so again, thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to me. And I look forward to working with each and every one of you in whichever way that works. And please grab a card off the table, grab a script pad, grab a brochure. This literally can help everybody that you know who literally has a brain in their head and wants to use it better. People like Tony Robbins, every Olympic athlete is doing this. I mean, we're really the people who are the normal people in the planet aren't usually given access to this type of thing until way later in the game. And this stuff has been around for quite a while, and now we're giving access to everyone. And again, I'm super excited about taking access in 2025 just through our patient medical director. But again, we can help you in any way. So thank you for your time and listening and playing Audrey Says with me. I love you all, and have a beautiful holiday season.